half a man, half a fish. His name was CodEye. Shunned by a cruel society, he retreated to his shack. His one passion was to tell stories, but he had no stories. He met a traveling man who would regale him with tales. One day, CodEye did him over and decided to ignore the copyright infringements. These are those stories.
Imagine yourself back in time, at least 200 years, in a whole new world where music, art and literature are just beginning to blossom. At the prime of their time, some people might say. Well, my friend, you'd be in England, in the Victorian era. More importantly, you'd find yourself in Harland Van-Harrison's shop, where you can buy all manner of things. Harland was an inventor and invented all kinds of wonderful inventions. People claimed he was ahead of his time, like Madonna. Others just called him a lunatic, hell-bent on the destruction of society. Whatever your views on society and possible causes of its destruction, let's take a journey back into the past and witness an ordinary day in the life of Harland Van-Harrison. Mid-morning on Fairfax Road, there in the middle of the street, surrounded by two bakeries, stood Harland Van-Harrison's Emporium Extraordinaire. Harland made his way down the stairs into the shop, nursing a large headache. He turned the sign on the door to read open, and then unlocked the door. He hobbled back over behind his desk, sat down, and opened one of the drawers to reveal his favourite opium pipe.
No, it's too early.
He closed the desk and sat patiently waiting for the first customer to arrive. From over the road, Orville looked out of his bedroom window and saw the open sign on Harland's shop. He briskly ran down the stairs, across the road and through the shop doors.
Ah, young Orville, back to spend your father's hard-earned money? Well, let's see what we can do for you.
Harland got off his chair, adjusted his tie, and made his way over to Orville.
What have you got today, Mr. Harrison?
No, I keep telling you, call me Harland.
Okay, Mr. Harland.
Close enough. So, let's see what I've got for you today.
Harland crept over to the far corner of the shop and opened a cupboard. He pulled out a large wind-up turntable. He hobbled back to his desk and placed down the turntable.
What's that?
Patience, my boy. Patience.
Harland has always been a patient man who believed that everybody should take his or her time. I remember when I fell off that swing set and broke my arm. He was in no rush to call a doctor then either. But anyway, Harland opened the drawer again and removed his pipe. He lit it and took a couple of puffs before turning his attention back to Orville, who was now so intrigued he could just burst at any moment.
Oh, do hurry up, Mr. Harland. I'm so excited. I could burst at any moment.
Not in here, you won't.
Harland dusted off the top of the turntable and then produced not one, but two ear trumpets.
This is the portable musical entertainment device. You see, what you do is attach this turntable to your belt, then attach each of these trumpets to your ears. Then simply wind the turntable and you can listen to your favorite music wherever you go. Here, give it a go.
Harland passed the device over to Orville, who quickly attached it to himself. It's a bit heavy, isn't it?
Nonsense. It can't weigh more than 50 kilograms.
Orville tried to wind the turntable, but the handle was too stiff.
It won't turn, Mr. Harland.
You just have to use a bit of force.
Harland tried to turn the handle as well, but by the look of his face, he couldn't do it either.
Ah, yes, it's a little stiff. Give me a hand with it.
Together they both managed to turn the handle, causing music to blast out loudly, deafening poor Orville. If I had to make an educated guess, I'd say it was the works of the wonderful Richard Strauss that had rendered Orville deaf in both ears.
See, it works fine now.
What?
I said it works fine now. That will be £7 and 3 shillings.
What?
£7 and 3 shillings.
Harland grabbed a piece of paper and wrote, "That'll be £7 and 3 shillings on the paper and handed it to Orville.
Okay, Mr. Harland.
Orville reached into his pocket and handed the money over to him.
Ah, excellent. Well, be on your way then, before your dad comes back and catches you spending his money.
What? I'm going to have to go now, Mr. Harland, in case my dad catches me spending his money.
Slowly breaking his back, Orville carried the device out of the shop with him, giving it blasts of music as he left.
Ah, what a nice lad. I think he needs to get his ears checked out, though. I mean, I'm 83, and I can still hear stuff fine.
Harland retired back to his chair behind the desk, puffing away on his pipe. Before he had a chance to sit down, the bell went on the shop door, and in walked Inspector Gideon Bodkins of the Scotland Yard.
What was all that noise I heard in here just now, Harland?
Harland turned round to face Inspector Gideon to answer him.
Noise?
What's that in your mouth as well?
Harland immediately spat the pipe out of his mouth.
What? My teeth?
No one likes a smart mouth, Harland.
Of course not, officer.
Speaking of liars, actually, that machine you sold me last week.
Ah, the suspect truth identifier, or the STI for short. How's it doing?
It doesn't work.
Doesn't work? That's preposterous.
Well, I was questioning this fellow over the murder of the Baker twins. I attached the metal rods to his head, as you showed me, but the problem is they overheat. Burns a hole straight through his head.
Really?
Would I lie to you?
Maybe you would. Just to try and get your money back.
Why would I do that?
I've heard the yard's low on cash.
And you suggest I'd con you out of giving us a free STI that doesn't work in order to save money?
I'm afraid I can't give you a refund until you bring it back and prove it doesn't work. Without smashing it this time either.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I've got the machine outside.
Inspector Gideon walked out of the shop and wheeled in a large, cumbersome machine.
Here it is.
Well, how do I know it's broken?
Because I just told you it burnt a hole straight through someone's head.
Well, how do I know you're not lying? Maybe he had the hole in his head all the time.
Harland walked over to the machine and inspected some of the dials before picking up the 2 metal rods.
The only way to know for sure is if I plug you into the machine to see if you're lying.
There's no way I'm doing that.
I'm afraid I can't give you a refund then. It's the Emporium Extraordinaire policy.
I won't stand for this. I want my money back. I know you're smoking opium, and I know that fire down on East Street was your doing as well. I wouldn't be surprised if you killed the Baker twins as well. One day I'll get you, Harland Van-Harrison. Then you'll wish you'd given me a refund.
Inspector Gideon stormed out of the shop, pushing the device over. Another victory notched under his belt, Harland sat in his chair, relit his opium pipe, and smoked it smugly. While Gideon was exiting the shop, he bumped into a middle-aged woman who was making her way to the entrance of Harland's shop.
I wouldn't buy anything from him. You're walking into a bombshell.
The woman made her way into the shop and walked to the desk.
Hello, I'm Agatha Croydon. People inform me that you're the best person to see about a cooker.
Harland took a long drag of his pipe before responding.
Ah, what sort of cooker are you after?
I was meant to start the roast this morning, but I forgot. Now dinner will not be ready in time for when my husband gets home. He will not be most pleased, knowing there is no food on the table when he enters the house.
Ah, so you need a fast cooker. I have just the thing.
Harland put his pipe down and pulled himself out of his chair. Using his walking stick, he hobbled across the shop and to another shelf. As he fiddled around with all of his other useless junk, he began to walk back with an overly large lead box.
I call this the blast oven machining box.
How does it work?
You open the box and place your food in the center. You then turn it on by pressing this little button on the side. Make sure after pressing it you stand well back. You will hear the machine start up and it will collect these things called atoms. But don't get caught up in the technical side of this invention. Anyway, these atoms will fire at each other over the top of your food. The friction caused by this will heat up your food in a matter of seconds.
That sounds wonderful. Just what I need.
Anybody who understands particle physics will understand that joke. Anyone who doesn't, then I suggest you ask your science teacher, who will be more than happy to spend an hour lecturing you on the subject.
That will be £23 and 5 shillings, Mrs. Croydon.
I only have £20 and 4 shillings on me, Mr.
Harland. Mr. Harland. Well, I'm afraid we can't do business then.
Harland began to pack away the machine when Agatha interjected.
I also heard that you accept opium as a form of payment.
Ah, deal. How much have you got?
I have 4 ounces.
Ah, that's more than enough. I will take it all, plus £20 and 4 shillings.
I can't afford all of that. This opium must be worth at least £30.
Well, that's fine. You will just have to face your husband when he walks through the front door demanding his tea.
Fine. Take it.
Agatha handed over the vial of opium along with the £20 and 4 shillings. She picked up the cooker and walked out of the shop.
Ah, yes. And one more thing.
Agatha stopped in her track and looked back over her shoulder.
What now?
Whatever you do, do not cook for more than 3 minutes.
Why not?
Well, do you remember that town between the Isle of Wight and Portsmouth?
No.
Exactly. Now get out of my shop.
Agatha left the shop and made her way home. I'm just glad that she will now be able to cook her Sunday roast without any trouble from her husband. Harland was now sitting back at his table, having refilled his pipe, happily puffing away. I hope he isn't smoking too much of this opium. One day, while I was at school, we had a guest lecturer on substance abuse. It didn't have a happy ending. Before Harland could relax, a wealthy-looking businessman barged into the shop.
Hey, you!
Harland looked up, taking another puff of his pipe before answering the businessman.
Who? Me?
Yeah, you. You sold me that telephone.
A telephone?
Yes, the one you can take around with your...
Ah, you mean the portable telecommunication device. PTD. Is there something wrong with it?
There's nothing wrong with the phone, but I went to the doctor yesterday because I had a headache and nausea. He tells me the telephone has given me this thing called a tumor.
It was at this point that Harland noticed the businessman had an unusually large head.
Whoa! What's happened to your head? It's massive!
I know. That's the tumor.
Are you sure your head's not always been that big and you've just never noticed before?
I think I would notice my head was abnormally large.
And the doctor called it a tumor, you say?
Yeah, something like that.
I've never heard of a tumor before. Then again, I'd never seen a head that massive before, so I suppose it makes sense, huh?
So, you'll give me my money back then?
Whoa, now, I never said anything about that.
Harland contemplated the situation whilst puffing away at his pipe. In the background, suddenly came a loud explosion.
What was that?
Probably the last customer I had. I warned her not to cook her food for longer than 3 minutes. I suppose half of London has gone up now.
Never mind that. What are you going to do about my money, old man?
Who are you calling old man, Sonny?
I'm calling it the old guy with a walking stick and a beard. Now what about my money?
Yes, but can you prove that the thing with your head happened from the PTD?
Well, the doctor said it was. Now I could go down and fetch the police to take a look at this. I hear they have a new machine to find out if you're lying.
Harland took yet another puff of his pipe and deduced that the shop must smell pretty strongly of opium, and he couldn't afford to have Inspector Gideon return again.
Tell you what, I'll give you your money back.
Great.
Harland opened his till and handed over the money. The businessman proudly walked out of the shop, scraping his head on the door as he left.
Oh, and good luck with your head.
Harland sat back down, refilled his pipe, and carried on smoking. He must have been pretty steamed by now. It was getting late, and Harland had had a pretty good day. 2 sales and only 1 return. A 2-1 business ratio was definitely something to celebrate. As Harland was about to close up shop and return upstairs to celebrate, another customer walked through the door. Harland looked over to see a crocodile stood in the doorway, wearing his best suit and bowler hat.
Evening. I'm looking for an automated toothbrush, and I hear you're the man to see.
Naturally, when confronted with the crocodile, you stand still, shocked, just as Harland did.
Somebody informed me that you sold them an automated toothbrush, and it was so good it pulled all his teeth out.
He can't prove that the toothbrush pulled his teeth out. Tell him.
I will. But in the meantime, do you have one about that I could purchase?
No.
No?
The crocodile was about to leave when he spotted a box marked Automated Toothbrush on the shelf behind Harland.
What about that on the shelf behind ya?
What? On the shelf behind me?
The box marked Automated Toothbrush.
It's not for sale.
Then why has it got a sign on it saying for sale?
It's not for you.
Excuse me?
I'm not selling it to you. You'll use it to eat people.
What?
It had failed to occur to Harland that there was no crocodile in his shop, and the opium had started to affect him.
You crocodiles are all the same. You come over here buying our toothbrushes, which you use to clear away the bones of little children that you've eaten.
I think you're confusing me with someone else, sir.
Get out! Get out of my shop and return to your swamp!
How dare you speak to me like that?
Get out, you dirty reptile!
Harland marched over and started beating the innocent man with his walking stick.
Get out! Get out!
Okay.
The man fled from the shop. Harland shut the door behind him, locking it. He turned the sign back round to read closed and muttered to himself as he made his way back upstairs.
Damn crocodiles!
Harland retired upstairs, finished off another bag of opium before he collapsed on the living room floor. The next morning, Harland made his way down the stairs into the shop, nursing a large headache. He turned the sign on the door to read open, and then unlocked the door. He hobbled back over behind his desk, sat down, and opened one of the drawers to reveal his favourite opium pipe.
No, it's too early!
He closed the desk and sat patiently waiting for the first customer to arrive. And the moral of the story, you ask? Well, isn't it obvious? Never trust crocodiles. And always safety check the products you sell in your shop. Oh, and leave particle physics to the professionals.